Let me tell you a story. This one time, this young mom had a kid, and the kid had a friend over, and let's just call them Brandon and Kyle. So, Mom says that we're going to have pancakes, and there's Kyle and Brandon, and they're fighting about who's going to get the first pancake. And of course, Mom is astute, and she says, oh, good, catechetical moment, teaching moment here. She said, now Brandon, now Kyle, what would Jesus do? Wouldn't Jesus say, no, you have the first pancake? And so Kyle goes, that's right, Brandon, you can be Jesus. Today, the readings, it's all throughout the readings, jealousy, envy, sin. And now jealousy plays a prominent role in the world, and it is present in today's gospel. What is jealousy? Well, Aquinas defined it as irrational anger at the success of others. The interesting thing about jealousy, we're not usually jealous of someone far away, like Hollywood celebrities and things like that. We're jealous of the people closer to us, friends or family members. It's interesting to note, too, if you've ever heard of Dante's Inferno, great literary work, he portrays the jealous as having, in hell, as having their eyes sewn shut. They can no longer look upon others with envy, and they must look at themselves and who they have become. Another aspect of the readings is greed, getting ahead, selfish ambition. In the letter of James, this is what he said: where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every foul practice. That's a good account of why we refer to envy as one of the capital sins. Capital coming from the Latin capis, meaning head, or the top sin, that from which other dysfunction flows, other sins flow. All kinds of bad behavior flow from envy and selfish ambition. And later in the letter of James, where do the wars and where do the conflicts among you come from? Is it not from your passions that make war within your members? So in other words, the external conflicts are a consequence of the internal discord, the internal division. And the war within your members is the war inside of you, between the mind and the will, between the soul and the body. When at war inside, they manifest themselves outside, externally. And the problem is when we lose that connection to Christ, we fall apart internally. You guys have seen the rose windows, those big stained glass round windows. And oftentimes in a rose window, the centerpiece, almost always the centerpiece, is Christ or the Holy Spirit or something of significance. But when you lose the middle of a rose window, everything else around it loses its focus or its reference point, because everything in the rose window kind of points back to the middle, the focal point. And then when things fall apart inside, they tend to fall apart outside. The exterior mess of our lives is caused by the interior mess. And we can find a solution in the gospel. Well, Jesus starts out, he lays out his destiny, his mission, and his purpose. The Son of Man is to be handed over to men, and they will kill him. Before that, they're going to beat the snot out of him. The apostles don't get it. They didn't get it then, and they didn't ask. And they didn't question. The scene would be rather comical, but it's so tragic. After the references to Jesus' self-giving love and self-sacrifice, they're arguing about who's number one, who's most important. It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. And they argue, who's the greatest? Envy, selfish ambition, getting in the way. The true mission is a self-forgetting love that lets divine love flow out into the world. It's a self-renouncing love. And worrying about who is the greatest is a contradiction to love. So what does Jesus do? Brings in a little child. Whoever receives one child such as this in my name receives me. And whoever receives me receives not me, but the one who sent me. The solution to envy and selfish ambition is a child, an icon in their midst. Why are children the solution to this? Well, parents, you might argue with me on this, but children are capable of being commanded, of being directed. They are yearning for authority. Without leadership, it will devolve quickly. You've probably seen The Lord of the Flies or heard about it. And that is kind of what can happen. And no matter how mature we are or how old we are, we all remain as children of God. We yearn to be commanded, to be directed, to be guided. We want to know from God what we are to do. Just like children, we yearn for authority. Those who are walking in the mission of Christ are not interested in who gets what, who wins and who loses. Another thing, children are incredibly well suited to live in the present moment. You've seen children, they can get lost in play. And when we're in a joyful state, or when they're in a joyful state, they're able to give themselves to the present, to the now. And as adults, we live in the past, licking our wounds, or worry about the future. And yet a child is more easily able to live in the moment, in the present. And so Christ is calling us to be like little children. Envy lives in the past, in our past wounds. Ambition lives in the future. And like a child, we are called to surrender to now, to this moment. To forget our ego, to find ourselves absorbed into Christ, into the present moment. And so the Lord challenges us today to be like little children, to accept the ultimate authority of Jesus Christ, because He will guide us as a child to all good things. Today we ask the Lord to guide us so that we might be the best version of ourselves. We might be drawn into holiness, to put away envy, selfish ambition, and to become like little children.